The experience of the ordinary, watching acts as simple as making breakfast, proves to be unbearable. Ultimately, Emily asks, do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? I couldn't help but think of our town while reading David Camp's The Day Before. There have been many accounts of the horrific events in Newtown, Connecticut, last December, when a gunman shot and ultimately killed 20 school children and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Camp does not reconstruct these events. His focus instead is on life as it was lived in this small New England town during the 24 hours before the shootings occurred. The local priest takes his kids from school on a holiday field trip to New York City. The elementary school principal prepares for a book fair and the annual Christmas concert. The owner of the local bagel shop deftly manages the middle schoolers who swarm her premises when classes let out. The police chief prepares to set up a DUI checkpoint in anticipation of excess holiday cheer. In an extraordinary feat of reporting and writing, Camp follows these men and women from the morning of the day before the shooting right up until the moment when the gunman enters the school and changes Newtown forever. Camp builds the accumulated detail of the ordinary into full-blown portraits not only of individuals, but also of a community. I'm tempted to add the words like any other because what emerges from Camp's story is something that's both specific and universal. Literally seconds after he turned his dispatch over to Cullen Murphy, his editor here at Vanity Fair, Camp opened his web browser and came upon the breaking story of the mass killing at the Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. A few days later, in a column in the British newspaper The Observer, Henry Porter, VF's London editor, wrote that more Americans have been killed by firearms over the past 45 years than in all the wars the U.S. has been involved in since its birth. Furthermore, forecasters predict that within 2 years, firearm deaths will surpass those of road deaths. Bill Ruprecht has been the CEO of Sotheby's for more than 13 years. He knows his company inside out, having worked his way up from the bottom since joining the firm 30 years ago as a typist. These days, he's at the top of his game. His company's stock has increased more than threefold since he became CEO, and he's widely respected by both his colleagues and his competitors. Dan Loeb is a 51-year-old hedge fund investor with no discernible management experience, but with a long track record of taking large stakes in small companies, and sometimes not so small companies, and using those stakes to push changes at the top that will benefit him. In early October, after buying a 9.3% stake in Sotheby's, making his firm the largest shareholder, he issued a public letter addressed to Ruprecht that was as offensive to the CEO as it was to fans of the English language. After a long harangue complaining about the company's growth and its general leadership, he got personal, going on about Ruprecht's salary, the number of shares he holds in Sotheby's, his expense account, and so forth. As William D. Cohen details in Little Big Man, Loeb has made quite a name for himself with this tactic, which he honed years ago, terrorizing the heads of penny stock companies. But as his hedge fund has gotten bigger, so have his ambitions. In the past couple of years, he's issued similarly poisonous missives to the heads of Sony and Yahoo with the goal of effecting changes. Hedge fund managers say that throwing their weight around is good for American capitalism. Their argument is that in our shareholder culture, no one generally owns enough of a company to serve as a check on corporate executives who may end up running the company for themselves. The hedge funds, with their enormous investments, say they represent not only themselves, but also the other investors by serving as that check. On the other hand, most hedge fund operators know virtually nothing about the businesses they target, while preaching austerity or innovation or whatever sounds good that day. As George Clooney so eloquently pointed out, Loeb had absolutely nothing to add to Sony when he bought more than $1 billion worth of the entertainment giant's stock last summer and coyly demanded a seat on the board. It turned out that the company was too big for him to push around, and Loeb, slightly injured, left the playing field for the time being. In his battle for some sort of control over Sotheby's, he's wielding as a cudgel the fact that Ruprecht held a lavish dinner at a Manhattan restaurant for 50 of the auction house's top producer employees. As former Sotheby's London chairman Gray Gowrie pointed out in the Financial Times, arch-rival Christie's, which is privately owned and thus immune to the carping of jackal investors.